Good morning, Fantastic Fours. Welcome back. I hope you had a lovely long weekend and you're ready for some work. Let's jump in. I've been talking about the importance of mental arithmetic. I know I've had the times table challenge, but I think today we're going to start with a daily mental arithmetic challenge. Just a reminder, any questions, please email me grade4@worksheetcloud.com. After the lesson, click on the worksheet link above so that you can check to see whether you've mastered what it is we covered today. What we are covering today is order of operations. We started it last time. Today we're going to add in brackets, make it a little bit more complicated, but really it's a follow-on from the lesson, and if you managed to do the last one, you should manage with this one. Right, before I jump to the next slide, on the next slide there are 10 mental arithmetic problems. So when I talk about mental arithmetic, I'm talking about things that you would normally do in your head. If I said, what is 7 plus 8? Should be able to do that in your head. In fact, hopefully by the time you get to high school, those sort of things you won't even need to work out. It'll just be there in your head. So I've put up 10 problems. I'm going to give you all of 40 seconds to do those 10 problems. So that means you're going to need to, if you want to finish them, you're going to need to work at one answer every 4 seconds. I'd actually like you to get to be a bit quicker than that, but we need to start somewhere. So we're going to start with 10 problems, 40 seconds. You're going to write down just the answer, not the questions. And after that, we'll mark them. I'll give you the answers and you can see how you did. Now, before we start, I think some people are still getting pencil and paper. Before we start, if you are somebody who finds these a little trickier and takes a little bit of a time, I would prefer you to take longer, only get through 5 and get all 5 of those right, than to rush and guess and get all 10 done but get 7 of them wrong. So right is more important than speed. Okay, obviously we want speed, but correct is more than speed. Right, I'm going to jump to the next slide. I hope you're ready, and go. "20 seconds left. Stop." So even if you haven't finished stop, there's no one to check if you're cheating. It's all down to you and whether you are cheating or not. Right, and it's not really cheating, it's just the parameters of the challenge. Okay, we're going to go through and give you the answers. Mark yourself correct. If you got it wrong, I don't think you need to put a cross. All you need to do is put the correct answer. So a tick if you got it right, and if you got it wrong, put the right answer next. Well, put the right answer. You don't have the question, and you didn't need to. Right. So number 1 was 11. Number 2 was also 11. Number 3 was 11 as well. And number 4 was 11 too. Not 11 too, 11 as well. Number 5 was also 11. And so was number 6. Before I go on to the last 4, which are different, all of the first 6 were 11. I hope you notice there's a pattern there. So if I look at the 5 and the 6, in the next question, the 5 went up by 2 to become a 7, and the 4 went down by 2. So if one goes up and one goes down, the answer will say the same. In the next one went up to 8, and the other went down to 3. Again, if you take one off and put one on, you can end up with the same answer. And if you notice the pattern, that's fantastic. I love it when people see patterns in maths. If you didn't, don't stress. This is still good practice. Mental arithmetic, how fast you can do these in your head, and this is the bedrock of a good maths result, is you must have these right, particularly you'll see in lessons to come. Okay, number 7, 3 plus 9 is 12, 3 plus 11 is 14, 3 plus 14 is 17, and 3 plus 17 is 20. So just a reminder, it was the first 6 were all 11, then 7 was 12, 8 was 14, 9 was 17, and 10 was 20. Our lesson goals today: work comfortably with the correct order of operations. So that's BEDMAS. If you didn't do the previous lesson, I would suggest that it's a good place to start. Although, before we get any further, we're going to recap the work from last week's lesson, just with some worked answers. And if you haven't done it, hopefully they'll put you on a path. And if you have done it, it was probably last week, so we'll remind our brains what it is that we're working with. Let's go through last week's worksheet, just as a way of we recap what we have done in BEDMAS, which is order of operations, so far. I think possibly useful to start before with writing down what BEDMAS stands for. So brackets, exponents, those were the two we haven't done yet. We just looked at the other ones. So I'm going to change color for the ones we have done. Division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Remembering that once we got to the last two, we worked from left to right. Or all squished in the corner, but that gives me the space to work on the side. Okay, I'm going to go through them and work them out with you. If you have done it on the memo, that's great. It still gives you a chance to remind yourselves and make sure that you're on the right track before we add the brackets in today. So I'm always in favor of the habit of writing the question out first, particularly for your teacher when they're marking it, they can see that you wrote down and you worked with the correct numbers. Sometimes when people copy from the question paper, they write down the wrong number, and then the teacher has to try and figure out what it is that went wrong. So if you've written the question there, the teacher will already be able to pick up whether you copied it down wrong. So in this one, we only have addition and subtraction, so we work from left to right. I like to underline the section I'm working with. So 10 plus 5 is 15, minus 2, 15 minus 2 is 13. Number 2, 25 minus 5 plus 10. We've only got plus and minus, so again we work left to right. That gives me 20 plus 10, which gives me 30. Number 3, 4 times 5 minus 7. If we go down our list, we don't have brackets or exponents, we don't have division, we do have multiplication, so that's what we're going to start with. 5 times 4 times 5 is 20. Minus 7, 20 minus 7 is 13. So you will notice that when I was getting to these stages, that's mental arithmetic. And if you make a mistake there, your answer is going to be wrong. And that is why mental arithmetic is just so important to you doing well in maths. Number 4, I see I'm numbering them 1 to 4 as opposed to in the letters, but that's fine. Let's carry on. 15 minus 3 times 4. If I look through my order of operations, you'll notice that the first of those two, minus and times, is times, so the 15 stays the same. Minus 3 times 4 is 12. 15 minus 12, that's mental arithmetic, is 3. Let's go to number 5, or E, 20 divided by 5 plus 5. Okay, we have division. Division is the first one of the list. So we do that first. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. Mental arithmetic. 6, or F, 7 minus 15 divided by 3. Division is the first one from that list, so that's the one I'm going to start with. Leave my 7 alone. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. 5 times 6 divided by 3. I don't think I mentioned this last time, but you will get the same answer no matter which way you do this one. but because our list says division first, we're going to go with division first. It's just one of those things that we've got an order of operations. It is correct. There is another way to do it, but let's keep it simple by just looking at the order that we have. So 5 times stays the same. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. If you wanted to see that it was working the other way, you could go 5 times 6 is 30. 30 divided by 3 is also 10. So that one in particular doesn't matter which way, but we are going to use the order that we've been doing. 8 or H, 4 times 5 minus 2 times 3. Shift my image out the way quickly. So we've got 2 times. I'm going to do my times from left to right. So 4 times 5 is 20. I'm going to leave everything else the same. Now I'm going to do the other times. Leave my 20 alone. 2 times 3 is 6. 20 minus 6 is 14. 2 more to go. So let's quickly make some space for them. So that was number 9, or I. 2 times 6 plus 20 divided by 4. I'm going to go with division first because that's the first from my list down here. So 2 times 6 plus stays the same. I'm just rewriting it. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Now I do my times. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 5. 12 plus 5 is 17. More mental arithmetic that's coming in all the time. So one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes children get the wrong answer because of their bad mental arithmetic, not because they don't know the process of order of operations or BEDMAS. And that is very disheartening because you get the wrong answer. You get a cross sometimes next to your work, and it's not because you don't understand how to do it. It's because your mental arithmetic needs to be strengthened. Last one. Yo, this was a long one. What kind of cruel teacher was this who was making such a long one? Wait, it was me. 45 plus 16 minus 48 divided by 8 plus 1 times 5. If I go down my list, I can see that division is the first thing I need to do. Everything else I'm going to rewrite the same. So those were the same. And in fact, then 48 divided by 8 is 6. And my plus 1 and my times 5 stay the same. So the only thing I did was I worked out what that was. And down here, I just put the answer to that section of the problem. Next, I have 8 times. So I'm going to do that next. 45 plus 16 minus 6 now all stay the same, and the plus. And 1 times 5 is 5. Now, as I'm only left with plus and minus, I work left to right. 45 plus 6 is 51. Minus 6 plus 5 stay the same. 51 minus 6 is 45 plus 5. 45 plus 5 is 50. So there we go. That was the homework, and I hope that's reminded you just about the order of operations that we've worked with so far. So that's BEDMAS, but without looking at brackets and exponents. So today we are going to look at brackets. We are not going to look at exponents because I'm fairly sure none of you have done exponents. But just before we get to that, I do want to just show you what exponents are. So perhaps you've seen something like this in a maths book, or you've seen another teacher, or your older brother or sister, something like that. This thing up here is what we call an exponent. And for those of you who want to bank this in your memories for future years, I would like to think of it as Mr. Travis planting a seed so that it might grow into a plant in future years. Now, what this 2 means is that we've got 2 somethings that are the same. And the something we have is whatever is down here. So 3 times 3 is 9, so the answer to 3 squared is 9. And if I had 4 squared, it meant that I had two things that were the same multiplied together, and it was whatever was down here. So 4 times 4 is 16, so the answer to 4 squared is 16. All right, the mistake that most people make when they first learn about exponents is that they think that it's 4 times 2, which is 8, which is not the case. It just means that there are 2 of whatever is down here. But that is beyond what you're doing right now. We're just going to look at BEDMAS, but just looking particularly at brackets. So the first one I'd like to look at today, just check my list. We'll work through a few together. 8 divided by 1 plus 3. I do have a slide for this, but it's not necessary for us to go to it. I can just explain what it is. So essentially, the B is for brackets, and all it means is that whatever's inside the brackets we do first. So if I looked at this problem without brackets, then the first thing I would do is this, because division comes before addition. There's division, there's addition. But when I put in the brackets, it means I must do whatever's inside there first. Oh, okay, looks like a D. That is, in fact, a B on the side. So now what this means is I need to do the bracket part first. So I'm going to underline what's in the bracket. On my next line, I'm going to write the 8 and division sign like that. Now on the next line, I'm going to put the answer to whatever was inside the bracket. And now that I've finished using the bracket, I don't need to write it anymore. So 4 plus 1, 1 plus 4 plus 3 is 4. I always do that as a maths teacher. I've already worked out the answer and somehow it just slips into the question. So often I give away the answer when I'm asking the question. All right, now we only have division left, and so we go with division. And I'm hoping your mental arithmetic will tell you that 8 divided by 4 is 2. Another way of asking yourself that is, how many times does 4 fit into 8? And the answer is 2. Second one I'd like to work with today, 20 minus 4 divided by 4, with brackets over there. So again, because we've got brackets, we do whatever's inside the bracket first. So I'm going to rewrite the rest there. I haven't done anything with it. Now I'm going to do the piece inside the bracket. So 20 minus 4 is 16. I don't need to write the brackets anymore. I've just written it down. So I worked it out and I wrote it down. So you see, normally a minus would come after division, but because it's inside the bracket, whatever's inside the bracket comes first. So it doesn't matter what operation's inside, the bracket happens first. 16 divided by 4, or how many 4s fit into 16? The answer is 4. Okay, 3 and 4. 3 doesn't have brackets. There's a very good reason for that. And it's just me showing you how it makes a difference when you put the brackets in. So for 3, you can try this one on your own because it should be familiar. So I'll give you about 20 seconds while I have a sip of tea. No, it's an easy one. I'll give you 15 seconds. Even if you're not writing it down, in your mind, tell yourself what is it that you're doing first in this problem. I think you had enough time. If you'd like to try it and you still need time, just pause the video. Right, so we've got plus and times. Multiplication comes before addition. So we'll do that part first. The 2 and the plus stay the same. 3 times 6 is 18. 2 plus 18 is 20. Now I'm going to do it. The same numbers, 2 plus 3 times 6. But this time, I'm going to put in some brackets. And I'd like you to work this one out now. Oh, you can't see all the way down. Well, I hope that you started with the brackets, because that's the top of the list for order of operations. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Times 6 stays unchanged. 5 times 6 is 30. So what I really just wanted to do with illustrate with having those two problems next to each other is that when we don't have brackets, and when we do have brackets, it does actually change the answer. There are times when it won't, when it happens that whatever's inside would have been done first. But when we have brackets, we need to be very careful that we do the brackets first. Otherwise, we're going to get the incorrect answer. Number 5, I've got 3 more to do and then a couple of challenge ones. So this time I'd like for you to try this one on your own. I'm going to write down 5, 6, and 7, and you can have a go at each of them or 2 of them, depending on how fast you're working. I'm going to go through 5 quickly, and then I'll give you a little bit more time for 6, or we can pause depending on what our time is looking like. So if I have a look over here, in number 5, for the first time, I have 2 sets of brackets. Truth is, you could work these out at the same time and it would be fine. I'm going to just do 1 step per line. So I'm going to start with the bracket on the left first and then do the bracket on the right. So 4 minus 2 is 2. The rest is going to remain unchanged. I've still got a bracket, so that's what I'm going to do. 2 times, and then the answer to my bracket is 12. Now that I've got 2 times 12, 2 times 12 is 24. 12 times 2, 2 times 12, same thing. Remember, we learned that you could turn them around and still get the same answer. I'm looking at the time. If you'd like a little longer to look at number 6, just pause. I'm going to go straight through 6 and 7, and then on to 2 challenge questions. Just don't want to run out of time. If you want to do it yourself, pause the video. I'm very happy if you do want to do it yourself. That shows good work ethic. All right, I have 2 brackets. I'm going to start with the bracket on the left. Put BEDMAS again. Remembering that those are from left to right. 12 divided by 2 is 6. The rest remains unchanged. Now, 6 divided stays unchanged. And I do what's in that bracket. 13 minus 11 is 2. Finally, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And that's my answer. For number 7, shift this up. For number 7, for the first time, we have more than 2 things inside a bracket. And I'm going to pause for a moment and just have a look at that bracket. So whatever's inside the bracket has to happen before the rest. But how do we know of these things what happens first? Well, it's almost like we run BEDMAS inside the bracket before we finish the bracket. So if I look at the inside of the bracket and ignoring the rest, I see that I've got a plus and I've got a division. And which of those comes first? The division. So I'm going to write out 54 divided by 6 minus, open bracket, 5 and plus. I'm going to work out my division. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and close my bracket. So all I did for that one was the section I've underlined in pink. It was part of the bracket, not the whole bracket. So in the next line, I'm still going to be working in my bracket. The rest is going to stay the same. I now have just the one thing in my bracket. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Now we've got rid of the bracket. Let's have a look what's left. So we have a division and a subtraction. We're going to go with division first. Times tables would help you with this. 54 divided by 6 is 9. Minus, unchanged, is the 3. We haven't done anything with it. 9 minus 3 is 6. Looked complicated, not super complicated. So just remember, we always use the order of operations BEDMAS, and when we've got a bracket and there's more than one thing inside, we use BEDMAS to finish the bracket before we look at the whole thing together. So, 2 challenge questions. And I definitely am going to ask you a couple of these in your worksheet today. So here's the challenge. I'm going to give you some numbers in the answers, but you need to figure out where to put the brackets to make it true. So I'm putting just the order of operations again. So this is number 8. So I'm going to give you 2 plus 6 times 3 equals 24. And somewhere in there, on this side, you need to put in a set of brackets. But you need to put it in so that your answer is going to be 24. I've just got 2 of these, so let's see if you can figure that out. And again, you just need to put in one set of brackets to get the right answer. So why don't we first start off by just looking at, we're looking at number 8. Let's look at number 8 and have a look what happens if we don't put any brackets in. Well, if we didn't put brackets in, we'd need to start with the times. 6 times 3 is 18. And then if we added 2, we'd get 20, which is not our answer. So somewhere we need to put in a bracket. So what if we did that? Let's have a look. Well, we'd start with the bracket. 2 plus 6 is 8. Times 3 stays the same. 24. So what we needed to do was put in the brackets where we have over there and over there. And that makes the statement true. Now that you've seen what we've done with that one, try the second one. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. That's long enough. If you'd like more time, you know what to do. If we did nothing with brackets, if we didn't put any brackets, then we've got plus and minus, we'd work from left to right. So 15 minus 2 is 13, 13 plus 10 is 23, and that is not what we have. So we definitely need to put in a bracket. Well, if we're not going to start with that, then we have to start with that. Let's check if that's true. 15 and the minus stay unchanged. 2 plus 10 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3, which is our answer. So our brackets needed to go where we put them, around the 2 and the 10. So this is what I said, the B is for brackets. All we need to do is whatever's inside the bracket, we solve for it next. That's all for today. Reminder that if you've got any questions, email me, grade4@worksheetcloud.com. After the lesson, please click on the link above just to make sure that you've got it and that you can practice it. There's a memo there so you can see step by step. Have an absolutely fantastic day, grade 4s. I will see you tomorrow.